We'd like to welcome all of you to our Help Me Grow Utah virtual networking event today. My name is Jody West. I am the community liaison, and I hope that you enjoyed having the opportunity to get to know all of our staff as we waited just a few minutes to allow everyone time to join. And most of them are here with us today. And when we have our activity later, you'll have the opportunity to interact with many of them. And it's just such a great team, and they do so much hard work, and we just wanted you to get to know them just a little bit more. So to get things going this afternoon, we're actually going to turn it over to Kaylee, and she's going to share information about data from last year.
Okay, thank you again for joining us. Like Jody said, my name is Kaylee. I am the director of Help Me Grow Utah. Since it is January and all of us are focused on kind of a new year and new goals, we did want to share with you just how Help Me Grow did last year and kind of some of our 2020 stats. So I'm going to go through this and kind of give an overview of Help Me Grow at the same time. So as you know, Help Me Grow works with families across the state of Utah. Last year, we were able to work with just under 3,400 families and about 4,500 children, which is really exciting. One of the things I will say is the number of families we worked with last year was down a little bit because of COVID, but we were able to do a lot more with those families. So as you can see here from the pie chart, the majority of families that we worked with enrolled for ongoing services. That means they wanted to work with a parent support specialist, to do screenings over time, to continue to get help with resources. And about 16% reached out to Help Me Grow just for a one-time screening or a one-time answer to a question. Because we work so closely with a lot of you as community partners, we wanted to give you an update for how families hear about us. So you can see that the majority of our families come to us from a community organization. This includes Head Start, early intervention, various health departments across the state, and then a smaller portion of families hear from us through word of mouth, media, our own outreach, which was down significantly this year. But as you can also see, 64% of our families were referred in using either our online referral form or a paper referral form. And then 36% of families reached out to us on their own after hearing about us from a friend or a community agency. So we do a variety of screenings as a means to see what families need support with. So last year we completed almost 4,000 screenings with about 1,800 individuals. So I'm going to go through and just talk about each of our screenings quickly. So the Edinburgh screening is a screening for postpartum depression. So we offer that screening both prenatally and postpartum. You can see most of the moms we offer it to take it postpartum, but we are trying to increase the number of moms that take it prenatally as well. You can see a breakdown of the scores. This is our screening that the higher portion of families actually do have some sort of concern and are struggling with this, and we definitely help connect them to the resources and information that they need to deal with all of the things that come during the postpartum and the prenatal period. The next screening we do is the ASQ3. This is a screening that looks at general development, and I think it's the one that you guys are probably most familiar with. This graph on the left shows us kind of a breakdown of when families are taking that screening. So we have a pretty good mix of families taking the screening throughout the child's lifetime. And that's what we want to see. We encourage families to do the screening over time so they can see how their child changes and grows. For the most part, families children don't have any concerns that show up on this screening. But there is a portion that we monitor and help connect to resources. And then those that do have an obvious concern that we really want to help connect into our partners like early intervention, for example. The next screening we do is the ASQ-SE, which is a social emotional screening for children. This one is offered a little bit less often, but you can see we still have a good range of when children are taking this screening. This one also has the majority of children that don't have any concerns. They are doing well with their social emotional development. And then about a quarter do show some concern and risk for social emotional delays. The last screening we do, which we just started in 2019, is the MCHAT. This is a screening that is specific to autism. So as you can see, the majority of families take this at 18 and 24 months, which is recommended by the American Academy of Pediatrics. But they can also take it at other times between 16 and 30 months. And the majority of those have a low risk for autism, with a much smaller percentage showing high risk or moderate risk and needing to be connected to resources. As Help Me Grow, we make a lot of referrals to community agencies and also to informational resources. We're able to make referrals for parents and for families as a whole, for children, and then we also make a lot of referrals to partners who are reaching out, asking for information on behalf of the families that they are working with. So we made almost 5,000 referrals last year, which, comparing it to our 2019 numbers, is actually up by 39%. So even though we worked with slightly less families than in years previous, we actually did a lot more. Both our screening numbers and our referral numbers were up, which I think just speaks to the need of that COVID really kind of highlighted for the early childhood community. So you can see on the left here, a lot of our informational referrals were given in relation to specific developmental domains. And then the community referrals were also specific to developmental domains, but we also, our top community referrals were given out because of maternal mental health. And as you saw from those screening results, we did have a large number of moms that took that screening that showed some concern and needed to be connected to either a support group, therapy, just general information about how their spouse could help them cope, those kind of things. Last, we did just want to mention, like all of you, Help Me Grow was affected by COVID in regards to our outreach, but we still did a lot of, we were still able to do almost 100 outreach events, reaching out to 924 community partners and 548 families directly. And our outreach this year did look different. Obviously, you guys are all on a virtual networking event, which is different than in the past, but Jody, our community liaison, has done great at doing virtual presentations. We have mailed out thousands of developmental activity kits for partners to distribute to children across the state. And we even did a series of virtual parent support groups during 2020. And I think that is all that I have for data. Whoops, now I'm going too far ahead. But I did just want to mention, this was just a quick overview of what the data that we can provide. We love to look at data in Help Me Grow. And if your organization is curious about data specific to families that you sent to us or specific to families in your area, that is always something that we can provide to you on an aggregate level, and we would be more than happy to. So you can reach out to myself or Jody to have conversations about data you're curious about, and we would enjoy having that conversation with you. So I'll turn the time back over to Jody.
Thank you, Kaylee. We sure appreciate that. It always tells a story by looking at data and all the things we're able to do to help families and help them get connected to different resources and the screenings, all of which benefit them for sure. And our goal is just to reach more families and help more in getting connected to great resources like all of you do and offer. So like Kaylee said, if you're ever interested in learning more about data, especially specific to your area, always feel free to reach out to myself or her, and we're happy to have those conversations. So looks like we went way too far on that, sorry. We're going to go ahead and switch over to our presentation. It's my pleasure to introduce to you our presenter today. I've enjoyed the opportunity of getting to know Esperanza these last couple months as we've communicated and planned this event, and all the great resources that they provide across the state for so many families. And they definitely have gone above and beyond this last year in being able to help in any way that they can some of our most vulnerable families across the state. So I'm excited to share or have her share all the information that she has for you today. But first, just a little information about her. Esperanza currently serves as the Associate Director of the Utah Parent Center. She has supported many families in the state over 7 years through the Utah Parent Center. Esperanza has delivered support through individualized consultations to families of diverse backgrounds, has provided the parental perspective in systems level advocacy and committee work, and she has been involved with internal project coordination and direction. Her education includes a bachelor's degree in linguistics and one in sociology. She currently has a master's of science in human development and social policy, along with a graduate certificate in disability studies from the University of Utah. She is the mother of a 12-year-old youth with autism spectrum disorder and also sister to a young man on the spectrum. Her life has been touched and shaped by these two individuals. Her greatest desire is to see them live fulfilled lives as they have allowed her to find fulfillment in hers. So, Esperanza will go ahead and I'll stop sharing my screen, and you're welcome to pull up your presentation.
Thank you so much, Jody. I appreciate that introduction. And, slideshow from beginning. And I am extremely excited to hear about all the work that went on and helped me grow for the last year. That was wonderful data to see. So what a wonderful introduction to the whole networking event. Thank you. Everyone, thank you so much for having me here and for being willing to hear from the Utah Parent Center. I hope many of you are familiar with our organization, but for those of you who may not be, I think you'll be glad to learn more about who we are, what we do, who we serve, and how we can support families in our state. So the Utah Parent Center, we are parents helping parents of children with disabilities, special healthcare needs for a long time now, since 1983. You definitely have heard enough about me, so I'll just skip this slide. But on the bottom, we do have our address. We are currently located in Murray. For those of you who may have known about us, we used to be in downtown Salt Lake City. We were there for a few years, but we have moved under the pandemic back in September. We moved offices, so now we're physically located in a different area of the state. But here's also my contact information should any of you wish to make contact for whatever reason. And here's a gorgeous picture of sequoias. And of course, there's a purpose to that. So the greatest redwoods of California are one of the beautiful natural wonders of North America. These giant evergreens can grow to a towering 300 feet tall and live for hundreds of years. For all of their magnificence, one would think the redwood would require a deep root system to keep them upright. Instead, they have roots that spread out along the surface of intertwining with the roots of other redwoods in the grove. The interlocking roots securely support and sustain these giant sequoias when storms strike and fierce winds blow. The tree's survival depends on the combined support of one another. When we stand together, support one another, encourage one another, we become strong together. And like the giant redwoods, we keep growing taller. So the Utah Parent Center, we are a nonprofit organization that provides statewide training and information to families of children, youth, and young adults with disabilities, any disability, and special healthcare needs to help families help their children, youth, and young adults live included, productive lives as members of the community. Just like the sequoias illustrate, we do have a philosophy that together, by connecting families, we can support each other through the toughest challenges. So we provide individual assistance, one-on-one consultations at no cost to families. We do this in phone, in person, virtually, in whatever method the family chooses. We have definitely seen a growth in that connection over technology, and certainly throughout the pandemic with added messages coming through social media and emails as well. Sometimes when you have a child with a disability, it's hard to go somewhere for an appointment, and a phone consultation works well. We can see families in person, one-on-one, and we are taking current precautions to be able to do that here in our office. And it is still an option. So if you are working with families that are hard to reach, that have the need to have that in-person contact, we're able to do that as well. Currently, our office is close to the general public, but we can arrange things on a one-on-one basis. Some of our consultants have a range, all of our consultants have a broad range in their backgrounds. Some are former teachers. We have had licensed social workers, active with different disability groups. Ultimately, what they have in common is that they are all parents of individuals, youth, and young adults with disabilities and special healthcare needs. This helps us bring the experience and perspective of having a child with a disability and helping other parents. We have a peer-to-peer model. The UPC is a statewide center, so we have a toll-free phone number, and that is our doorbell ringing if you hear that here at our center. We can connect families to trained parent consultants as well as volunteers that might be geographically more local to their areas throughout the state. We do have full-time Spanish-speaking parent consultants as well that can help provide some of that cultural brokering that might need to happen with a family when they have a different language and a different culture. And we certainly can consult with families of other backgrounds as well. So we generally employ interpreting services here in the community. Our information is provided and meant to capture information statewide. And we certainly have professionals that make contact with our center as well. We're happy to talk to any professionals that might have any questions or might have any concerns that reach out to our center. So it certainly is something that we have done and continue to do and are happy to do. We offer workshops for our free trainings, and we also offer conferences. In fact, we have a conference coming up, so I'll just do a little shameless plug-in that there is a conference at the Utah Parent Center happening January 20th and 21st for families and any professionals that are wanting to connect with a variety of different topics. I would just direct you to our website, and I'll share the information with Jody once again, so that when she sends any materials related to this, you'll be able to have that information at your fingertips. The UPC staff have built collaborative networks with education, health and human service professionals, agencies, and organizations. And this presentation is going to go over a lot of what those partnerships look like and what the projects within the Utah Parent Center look like for families to connect with. And Jody, definitely interrupt me or let me know if anybody has a question in the chat and along the way. So we say that we have a super staff to help our super kids. Our philosophy is that parents are full partners in the decision-making processes that direct their child's care and programs, and as such can provide significant support to other parents in similar circumstances. Our caring and competent staff at the Utah Parent Center utilizes a proven, effective parent-to-parent model, meaning that our staff are primarily parents of children with disabilities. Each of us have a child with varying ages with different disabilities, and we feel that this allows us the opportunity to provide real-life experiences and positive lessons learned. Some of our most requested workshops include parents as partners in the IEP process and transition from school to adult life. These are designed to help parents learn about the special education process in the school setting. So of course, I know many of you work with our early, or I should say young population of early intervention. And once they transition into the school system, a different process will apply in that The teams look a little bit differently. The supports are targeted toward the child, whereas before it was family-centered, family-based. And a lot of the rules and regulations, families cannot necessarily imagine and navigate well without prior knowledge as to what these look like. And our center definitely supports in the learning of these different processes. And again, we go through another major change. So after, children transition from early intervention into special education or other supports in the school setting, they transition yet again as they become young adults and are preparing for their lives, for future employment, for independent living, and any other possibilities that adult life brings. And with that, we find that it requires additional support and training as well. So we also have multiple trainings, and we're going to look at a few of those that target that particular age range. In addition to those, some of our most commonly held workshops include our communication workshop that talks to families and teaches them about the importance of being assertive, the importance of having difficult conversations with the individuals that serve their children, and the importance in data gathering and having coming from a place of where you're speaking from your own opinion and not putting others in the defensive, for example. We find that those are really useful training pieces for families as they collaborate and are in true partnership with the professionals that serve them. Different projects teach in different areas of expertise, and we're going to look at those projects in a second. Some of the information we're hearing from families regarding our workshops are here on the screen, so it's wonderful. I've always had my questions answered. Give me just a second. I have our pictures right in front of the screen. They are really a great service. I didn't know where to turn, and they really helped me out. I didn't know what services I could get for my daughter. They gave me the information, the number to call, and the referral I needed. And the information was really useful in the transition meeting. We would have been completely lost without it. These are some wonderful comments, and truly, when we do evaluations and we go through evaluation processes here at our center for our different projects, this is really what our parent consultants live for in order to feel that fulfillment in the difference they've made in the lives of families. Truly, the individuals that work here at the Utah Parent Center absolutely do it from the heart. And again, it's that strength of the peer-to-peer model and wanting to support others and wanting to elevate others to a place where we know is going to have a strong impact for families and for their children, youth, and young adults down the line. The hope is to be able to move outcomes in a positive direction in the lives of these individuals and do our part in terms of what the system is already hoping to achieve to be able to help these families. As I mentioned earlier, we have focused a lot of our attention in the transition to adulthood and what that change might bring to youth and young adults with disabilities and special healthcare needs. We have two very specific projects within our center that will connect families to resources and present on special topics of interest like self-determination, like self-advocacy, person-centered planning, and we collaborate with professionals. We bring them on board, have live chats with families where perhaps we might have a representative from vocational rehabilitation services, or we might have a representative from an independent living center, or self-advocates themselves. Actually, one exciting thing happening at our center as a consequence of all of this work in the area of transition has been that this project that you see down below, Transition University, this comprehensive curriculum has also given us the opportunity to create a youth advisory board. And so we have brought youth across the state to comprise a youth advisory board to help us in learning how to engage youth better, learning what topics are of high interest to them. Ultimately, it is about them, and we recognize that the role of parents and families pretty much shift as they are reaching adulthood, and that support that needs to happen needs to be heavily informed by the young adults that we are serving. The Youth Advisory Board has been an exciting endeavor, and again, another opportunity to help us reach families in a way that seems meaningful to them. Some of the topics that we might cover in Transition University might include transition from school to adult life and employment, supported decision-making, topics like guardianship, things that might seem almost a little out of reach to families in their complexity and their legal nature. Self-advocacy, I've mentioned, transition, alternatives to guardianship and other types of supported decision-making, social life, and even spirituality as we tackle home and community for individuals with disabilities. In addition to those trainings, we do have dedicated parent consultants that serve particular school districts and charter schools. And you see them listed here on the screen. We have someone that lives within the boundaries and has a child that receives services in Granite School District, in Davis School District, in Salt Lake School District, different parents, in Canyon School District, in Alpine School District, Nebo, Tooele. We recently added Box Elder School District to our partnerships, and we do have a cadre of charters that we also dedicate support to, and those are American Leadership Academy, Ascent Academy, Providence Hall, Ogden Preparatory Academy, Mountain West Montessori, Learning Leadership Academy, and Hawthorne Academy. And I realize that that's a list of 7 that I've mentioned. And we have many, many, many more charters in our state that we still provide support to through our in-office parent consultant, our parent training and information project that is backed by funding from the Department of Education through the IDEA, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. So we have a federally funded program specific to special education, and this is to extend that reach and that support and to be able to support more families within our state in that realm.
Esperanza, we have a couple of questions in the chat with this slide. And there's 2 people that are wondering if there is going to be, or is there someone in Washington County?
We used to have a parent consultant in Washington School District in particular. It wasn't the full county, it was the school district. And unfortunately, that funding was not renewed. We still, receive phone calls from families in the St. George area, the Cedar City area, which is welcomed. And so our parent consultants from our internal office will connect with those families and support them, but we want to have a dedicated partnership because we know having investment in that local community is important because that family really understands the ins and outs of that regional support, as well as they are connected to the larger structure of parent centers. For those of you that may not know, PTIs or Parent Training and Information Centers are a nationwide web of supports, and each state has at least one, and we are the one for the state of Utah. But again, we extend these partnerships. So we used to have one. The funding was not there for the next year, but we continue our efforts to try to reach out and try to see how we can extend that local reach because we do realize its importance and its impact. Thank you, Jody.
Yeah, thank you. The second question was, how do you decide which school districts have parent consultants?
So we don't necessarily make that decision ourselves. We reach out to all LEAs that have an interest. And I will tell you that our oldest one has been around for over a decade. And because they value support that we bring to families, they continue to renew year to year. These are yearly contracts that we have for these partnerships. So we don't necessarily say, now we're just going to go to this place. These are people that are invested. These are school districts that have invested in that support and allowing the parent center to have a dedicated person just to their boundaries in their area. So we do outreach and saying we would love to have somebody, for example, in Washington School District, for example, in Provo School District. Can we make that happen? And then school districts, they also have budgets and responsibilities, and they weigh pros and cons. And then slowly but surely, more are added to the partnerships, but they're not necessarily something that we single-handedly decide. Great question, though. Okay. The philosophy, again, in that it's important to connect to the regional supports and have investment in the regional knowledge. Also extends the partnerships between the professionals serving at that local level and families really have told us about the benefit that somebody knew exactly where to direct them, instead of saying, well, in the system, there should be somebody over special education, see who your director is. This person can say, oh, you want to connect to, I'm just going to make up a name, Mindy Summers. Let me give you Mindy Summers' information and make that direct contact. There's definitely added benefit in having that local knowledge and boots on the ground for supporting families. We also have a philosophy of resolving issues and disputes at the lowest level possible. We know that families are going to have an extensive relationship and collaboration within the school system for many, many years as their children navigate the school system. In fact, within special education, it's possible to receive special education services through the age of 21 till the age of 22. And in our state, legislation has been passed where if you have turned 22 in that school year, you could still continue to receive services until the end of that school year. So it can be even a tad bit longer for these youth and young adults. And so preserving that relationship as best as we can while still advocating for the needs of a student is important, and it's a delicate balance, absolutely, and making sure that relationships are not rattled and shaken to a point where irreparable damage is done, because we do know, again, it's beneficial for the family and also ultimately that student to preserve those relationships. That being said, we do know that there is the chain of command, and we do recognize that many families may go through a struggle that requires accessing higher levels of dispute resolution, and we support that as well. One of the funding sources that we have through the State Board of Education actually allows us to be able to fund parent consultants attending IEP meetings and supporting families as they go through higher dispute resolution options in our state within the education system, special education in particular. And it has been a really helpful piece that we have added to our programming here at the Utah Parent Center, where we can say, okay, I see, all the issues that are happening in this realm, let's make a contact, let's prepare the meeting and let me attend with you, and families request that quite often. And we find that it is beneficial to make sure that families are understanding the communication that they're getting from their schools and from the charter schools or school districts, and vice versa, that the school district and the charter schools able to understand the perspective of the parent that feels that there's an obstacle in the way for providing appropriate services for their child, youth, or young adult with disabilities in their system. So again, we recognize that, but we also see the value in trying to problem solve with the next level up, as opposed to jumping to the highest level possible for resolving issues. Our other federally funded project here within the Utah Parent Center is our Utah Family Voices project. Now, the Utah Family Voices project is a family-to-family health information center. And that is something that allows us to provide statewide assistance in a variety of ways to help youth, children, and young adults with special healthcare needs in particular. Some of the workshops that are taught, some of the topics that are often discussed with our parent consultants with this project and families have to do with insurance, issues and needs, coverage, mental health, as you can see on the screen, Social Security income, Medicaid, supports through the Division of Services for People with Disabilities, guardianship, understanding the concept of a medical home portal, and having coordinated care that is family-centered and keeps the family at the center of that care and the choices that are made. So we do have school special education expertise within the center. We also have a lot of expertise in dealing with these other systems that are still part of what a family is going to navigate throughout the life course of their child with a disability or special healthcare need. Our Utah Family Voices project also benefits from a lot of support and partnerships in the system. And one of them is the Early Hearing Detection and Intervention, or EDHI project. Oh, and I've switched to H and the D. It's obviously Early Hearing Detection and Intervention, so it's EDHI project. This project also has dedicated parent consultants that will support families in that niche where I think the majority of probably your audience is in with that early intervention, age 0 to 3, when there is a child that is deaf or hard of hearing. These are parent consultants that again are peers, so they themselves are parents of a child or children who are deaf or hard of hearing, and can have that lived experience to speak from in terms of helping other families navigate the system, make the right connections, helping them realize the importance of early intervention and the importance of finding the professional support throughout that really early life for their infant and toddler who's deaf and hard of hearing. There is a Facebook page that we partner with the Utah EDHI project at the Department of Health to maintain for families, and the link is right there on the slide. We have very active, energetic, I think is a good word to describe the parent consultants supporting this project, who again just do this from the heart and want to see families benefit no matter what modality, what mode of communication they choose for their little one, to be able to thrive with the resources that they need and to be able to understand what the options are. So that is a little bit about our EDHI project. Besides the EDHI project, we also have a network of volunteers. Now, these are grassroots volunteers in different areas of the state. We have about 15 volunteers interspersed throughout Utah that oversee a local network. And these network leaders are families who are wanting, again, to support families that find themselves in the same situation. And that situation is that their needs are a little more intense. These are families that would be eligible for and benefit from services from the Division of Services for People with Disabilities, where there are intellectual disabilities involved and other developmental disabilities that have a strong impact in the functioning of that child or youth or young adult or adult in this case. For these families. Now, this network of volunteers, they are connected within the center, and that we have a network coordinator internally. And this network coordinator, again, she herself is also a parent that has had a child who, I mean, at this point in time, her child is deceased, but was receiving active supports from the Division of Services for People with Disabilities, and knows what it's like to have that need and to not necessarily be accessing services. And so the need has been recognized. The families in general have been found eligible, but the funding is not necessarily there to provide the supports that we know those families are needing. And so the network is meant to help facilitate and ease some of those challenges with added knowledge, added information, training, connections, out of the box ideas, logical, and perhaps things that families themselves have come up with that have worked for them in order to help sustain and support these families. So they are a very spirited bunch, to say the least, and they are just advocates at heart, and it's a privilege. It's a privilege to work with these families, to hear from these families, to know that there is sort of a network of communication happening from those living what they are living in their communities in Utah, and that information makes it through to the Division of Services for People with Disabilities, who is ultimately the agency that supports this project and the funding of the activities that go on with the leaders in those areas. It really is, like I said, a privilege and humbling to see the efforts of these individuals. Under the pandemic conditions, I think something that is worth mentioning is that this particular project, they were just brainstorming. How do we support families without being together and not just have it be a virtual experience? This project used to put on a lot of disability-friendly in-person activities that gave an outlet to families in their areas, and they came up with drive-throughs that I thought were brilliant, where they would put together information packets and little care packets, where they would then invite the families in their area through technology, right? We would disseminate flyers in either the local school district if we had that kind of a connection going as well, and also through our Facebook page and social media. We would just get the word out there from these networks, and they would invite families to come to these drive-throughs. And so, you know, slowly but surely, these cars would drive by, pick up their care package, pick up their information, have socially distanced, perhaps a conversation with the leader, you know, from far enough away that they both felt safe with masks on, and they kept going. And I thought, oh my gosh, they figured it out, you know, to have some sort of way to connect where you still have that personal aspect and try something different. So like I said, I'm in awe of these individuals and some of the ideas that they generate. So I thought I'd share with the group. I think it's wonderful. In general, yes.
I had the question of where do some of these events take place, or how do they find out like what counties these ones are available in?
Absolutely. So on our Utah Parent Center page, we do have the Family to Family Network, and each network has their own individual Facebook page that they manage. So typically we're disseminating these activities through our center, of course, but then in their own communities, they have network so that they are reaching like their local VR, for example, talking to their local district, talking to whatever other connection they have, and obviously it's not the same from area to area, especially in the most remote rural areas. So they think about who their community outreach partners might be, and so they disseminate, and then the event comes together. So hopefully that helps answer your question. So it's coming out from our center, and it's coming out from the local communities, and it's certainly going out through the local leaders' social media as well. Okay, so on the whole, we do have broad partnerships with agencies and organizations. I did mention the Utah State Board of Education and how they support our parent training and information project, as well as allow for parent advocate activities to help families with IEP meetings in particular. We certainly have relationships with the Department of Health and Children with Special Healthcare Needs in particular, where they do help extend our reach and partner quite heavily with our Utah Family Voices project. In addition to that, we do have partnerships with the Medical Home Portal, and this is a multi-state effort to bring information to families and professionals for, again, keeping the child, youth, or young adult with disabilities and special healthcare needs at the center of that care. We do have dedicated parent consultants in 2 clinics. The first one is the Utah Developmental Assessment Clinic, and as families receive a diagnosis, of, say, an autism spectrum disorder, they can connect to that parent consultant right away, and that parent consultant can link them up to the Utah Parent Center and all the resources that they could benefit from. And then families, after they've made that connection, can so then choose to use as whenever, wherever their needs are or not. Yeah, so it's absolutely up to the family. And we do have a dedicated parent partner to supporting families with hemophilia in our state. And that's a very small group of individuals statewide in terms of the impact it has, but still a dedicated support, again, from a family, a parent herself who has 5 children with different degrees of severity of hemophilia for each one, and to help guide those parents and individuals with hemophilia themselves in terms of making connections with knowledge and information that would be helpful to them. So those are some other partnerships and dedicated supports that I wanted to share with everyone. We do have a website, and what I will point out on this particular page, let me see if I can do it with my cursor, is this events tab right here. Hopefully you can all see my cursor. If you click on there, you will know everything that's happening within the Utah Parent Center that's open to the public. So if you go on there, families are able to register directly for any event. And pretty much we're doing everything virtually except for those drive-thrus, like I mentioned. But even those drive-thrus, we would have as an event on our page that people can then, register. Not in quotes, they can register for. So we also have some dedicated resources in Spanish. And I will tell you that over the years, I've been impressed with Google Translate and what it does now, at least with the Spanish language, that I can read without any difficulty when I translate our website. So just about anything and everything is pretty much of high quality there that you can share with families in Spanish. So again, just to remind you where we began, we do have that philosophy that just like the strong sequoias, where they have that shallow root system to support each other through the storms, through the challenges. We believe that families certainly do better in supporting each other when they can connect to each other and learn from each other's experiences and benefit from each other's wisdom and positive words along the life course. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Esperanza, for sharing that information about the Utah Parent Center. It's definitely a great resource, and resources available statewide and then some in the local community as well. Definitely is beneficial to helping these families. I want to open it up for just one moment to see if anyone has any last questions for her before we switch to our networking activity. Okay. I will include her contact information as well as her PowerPoint and a few of the links in their website in the follow-up email, as well as the video recording of this. So you'll be able to watch it again if you'd like, or share with others and get access to their great information. So thank you again so much, Esperanza, for that information. We're going to go ahead and switch gears and go into our networking activity. As I had mentioned in the beginning, you're going to have the opportunity now to interact with some of our Help Me Grow team, and they've helped us put together this little activity. So I'm going to ask Kaylee if you will switch us into our breakout rooms, and we'll be in there until about 2:20. Perfect. Thank you so much. We hope that you enjoyed that activity and getting to know some of our team a little bit better. As we work across the state supporting families and getting connected to resources, we thought that would be a fun one to brainstorm together and get to know each other's organizations in different areas of our state. So we do have about 5 minutes that we're going to open up and see if anyone, any of the groups, you should have each of your groups should have assigned someone to report back, and we have time for maybe 1 or 2 of those. I thought I'd open it up to see if anyone wanted to volunteer to do that first. Share just briefly what your case study was, and then any resources that would benefit that family.
This is Dora from Shriners Hospitals. I'd be happy to jump on and share what we talked about.
Great, thanks, Dora.
Sure. So our case study was in the past month, a family has experienced many changes. The dad is in the military and is told he will be deployed to another part of the world next week. The mother found out yesterday that her job has been terminated, and they have 3 children. The oldest daughter is 11 years of age. The middle child is a son who is 7, and the youngest daughter is 4 years of age. Each child has a difficulty with their father leaving. This family is trying to figure out how to cope emotionally and financially. So we're talking about it, and we all kind of, I don't think any of our organizations could help directly for them, but we were thinking about other organizations. And one of them was Parents as Teachers Home Visit Program, Jobs, Utah.gov, Southwest Mental Health, local school districts. Those are just a few. And somebody said play therapy for the children would be helpful to help them through that transition. And then someone did mention military has programs to cope with parent in deployment. And I have heard that as well, that they have a lot of help within the organization to help them out. And then the Center of Grieving Children in Ogden. There is a place in Ogden that they help children with changes like that. And then someone said I would do early intervention, or they do early intervention. I would refer to Parents as Teachers Home Visiting, and they would be in turn refer to various programs that they offer. And then Help Me Grow would help they have developmental screenings and for the mother to see what kind of programs they would have accessible for her. I believe that's it. I think those were just a few that the group thought of that would assist this family.
Great, thank you so much, Dora, for being willing to do that. You definitely shared a lot of great resources that would benefit that family and help them through a transition time for sure. So we hope that that activity was beneficial for you as you think about different ways to brainstorm resources and help families get connected. And I just want to throw out another plug again, that if you're looking for a resource and you're not sure where to look or just need help in doing that, we're always happy to help at Help Me Grow as well, help you get connected to resources that are available within your community. We do enjoy making those connections. So due to the time, I'm going to finish our breakout activity and not ask anyone else to do that, but I appreciate that many of you were willing to share within our group. And I hope, again, that that was beneficial to learn about different resources, not even just in your own community, but available across the state on what may benefit families in different ways. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen for just one last moment. We would just appreciate it if you would take just a minute, Kaylee, if you would mind pulling up our poll and fill this out and to help us see how useful today was and maybe think of ways that we can improve this event in the future.
We'll give it another 30 seconds. We've got about 70% of you filled it out. Okay, we've closed the poll.
Great, thank you for filling that out and helping us today. We'd like to thank you for joining our networking event today. Again, thank you to Utah Parent Center and Esperanza for sharing that information. Again, I'll send a follow-up email that includes her contact information and her presentation, so that if you'd like to reach out to her with more questions or see if she'll present to your group, she's happy to do whatever it is that she can get information out about Utah Parent Center. So we do not have our next one on the calendar just yet, but we will definitely send out an email when our next networking event is scheduled, and I hope that you can join us then. But as for now, thank you and have a great day.